All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Wednesday, July 31st. We have a 14-game, I believe, MLB slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do when we go through each and every one of these games, I'm going to give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total, talk about any other plays, like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, all of my final plays, so I'm actually betting myself, all of those plays are going to be listed in the pinned comment. And last night, I know what you're thinking. We had a tough night. Our sole win, there's a lot of red X's over there. Our sole win was the Orioles on the first 5-run line. It was our sole full unit play, so maybe that's the silver lining or glass half full approach, but nonetheless, a pretty crappy night over there. But the vibes do get a little bit better here. We can drop a cha-ching for this one. Our ride of the day cashes from my man Danny, a plus 425 money line parlay. Cole gets scratched from the Yankees, starting position, and I was like, oh boy, this is tough. We already locked in with the Yankees. No problem. Yankees still win the game. It was a nail biter, but they still win the game. Yankees, Mets, and Royals all cash. Let's get some applause in there. Shout out to Danny for the ride of the day. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. All you have to use is hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Give me your favorite play or something that you think is worth considering. Then we jump on board with whichever comment gets the most likes. If you win, we continue to ride with you. So looking forward to seeing what banger Danny drops today. If you lose, we got to talk about it, drop the womp womp and all that type of stuff. But you know what? We're transparent. We're here for it. So get those hashtag ride of the days in the comments. Danny, make sure any play that you submit is in by 1 p.m. today, I'll say. Or, we can go 1:30-ish that time. And then also minus 140 or better odds. So no absolute juiced plays there to continue the ride of the day. But what do you say we go ahead and jump into this slate, guys? Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Rough day yesterday, but like I said, we're here. We're owning it. We can go 0-100 in our last 100 plays, and we'll show up for the next day. So you know what? No harm, no foul. We're still having a great July. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. Is that the saying? We'll roll with it. But let's go ahead and jump into game number 1 here. We got Tampa Bay taking on Miami. Taj Bradley on the bump for Tampa Bay, going up against Roddery Munoz. Munoz, obviously not a very good pitcher, not good on the road, whereas Taj Bradley has been really, really good at home as of late. But the one thing about this Tampa Bay offense is that they have not been batting righties all that well in the last 30 days. Worst average in the league, bottom third in both ISO and slugging, so their power numbers aren't there either. So to me, this is a spot in which I would say I don't necessarily want to trust the Tampa Bay offense, but I can put a little bit of trust into Taj Bradley. So I think the way that I play this one is going to be taking a peek here at the Miami Marlins team total under. Right now, you can get that heavily juiced at 4.5. You can also take a peek at it, at 3.5 for, I want to say it was like minus 160. So that's probably the best you can get. I don't think 4.5 seems like it's in the cards today because, one, the Miami offense isn't all that great, and two, Taj Bradley's been on a roll. So under 3.5 team total is probably my look, but that still is low. Like you guys will notice, I usually, when I take team total unders, it's more so taking a peek at those 4.5 numbers, because scoring 5 runs I think is a lot different than scoring 4, even though it's only 1 run. But the total's down at 7.5 here, so they expect a low scoring game and everything like that as well. So that might be the play, and that's how we can kind of back Taj Bradley in Tampa Bay without having to back the offense, and also kind of have something on the total. So Miami team total under, probably my only spot in this game. All right, next game up, we have Baltimore taking on Toronto. Grayson Rodriguez gets the start for Baltimore. He's been a little bit better at home, 1.14 whip with a 3.67 expected FIP, a K rate of 25%, average against of 239, better than he has been on the season, slightly at home. But I think the big storyline here is the starter for Toronto, making his 3rd MLB appearance today and his first start, I believe, of the season here. It's going to be Paolo Espino. I think he's like nearly 40 years old, so he's not a young kid coming out of AAA or anything like that. Just not necessarily a stud pitcher. So far in these 2 games, he has a 7.71 ERA, and I don't think that that's necessarily the pack that you want to bring into facing a Baltimore offense, in which I think this offense is starting to kick it into gear. 3 games in a row now, actually 4. They've gone 8, 11, 4, and 6 runs. So this Baltimore offense that struggled for quite some time, I would say 3 weeks or so, maybe a little bit less, 2.5, may be back back in full force, and they're going up against a pitcher in which I'm not all that scared of. Grayson Rodriguez also throws a ton of fastballs. Toronto just 23rd when it comes to runs above average against the fastball, so I think this is a decent spot for Baltimore. The problem is 238, a little bit too much there. Maybe we could consider them like we just did with yesterday with the first 5 run line, but even still, you get them in the first 5 innings run line, right? Minus 0.5, you're looking at minus 145. So that's a lot of juice to be paying to say, hey, you get 5 innings to win the 5 innings. So we'll see. Definitely the spot that I'm considering here, but don't know if that makes its way into being a final play. In terms of the total, I think I would also take a peek at Baltimore's team total over, or the total overall. Like, I'm not saying Grayson Rodriguez is going to stink, but these Toronto bats aren't all that terrible, right? Like, in this series alone, they've had, 5, 8, and then 2 yesterday, but still 5 and 8 decent run-scoring games, so maybe some runs come in. So Baltimore team total over, or the full game total over in this spot as well in terms of total. In terms of player props here, nothing that's jumping off the page to me. Due to the fact that I think we have, obviously, the Toronto pitcher on the mound, we could make some arguments for guys that don't bat that side very well or anything at Baltimore, but we don't really know what we're getting out of him. So I'd rather not deep dive into some of these plays just because we have a righty on the mound in a sense. I want to see what Paolo has to bring to the table first. All right, Philadelphia taking on the Yanks. I feel like we've had a very good beat on this series so far. Let's hope that continues today. Philadelphia's trotting out Chris Sanchez. He's been absolutely amazing at home, so shout out to him here. Going up against Nestor Cortez, who is obviously a good pitcher as well, but has been kind of rocky as of late. Last 5 starts here is nearly 4. I think it's like 3.8 something ERA compared to his 4 on the season, so kind of just he's struggling on the road, which is what it is. And this is a spot in which the Yankees are on the road. And the reason that I might be on Philadelphia today, that's going to be the lean, is due to the fact that the Yankees are going up against a lefty. I've been talking about how I think the Yankees offense is back and they're going to score a lot of runs. And yeah, we've been right about that so far, right, in these last few games. But those are not against lefties. That was against Wheeler and then Nola. Now they have Chris Sanchez on the mound, and the Yankees' numbers dropped drastically against lefties over the last 30 days. So I do think this is a spot in which, you can comfortably take the Phillies and maybe look at them on the first 5 or something like that, just due to the fact that the Yankees do have a better bullpen than this Philadelphia team. But even still, the Yankees bullpen, some of these guys, or a lot of these guys, should be kind of taxed and whatnot. So I don't even mind pulling the trigger on the full game for Philadelphia here. So keep an eye on the pin comment to see what we end up rolling with. Both these bullpens have kind of been through the ringer in the last 2 or 3 days. So I don't want to say that either one of them is in better shape than the other, but if all things are equal, we'll say this: the Yankees do have a better bullpen than Philadelphia, okay? But Philadelphia doesn't have a bad bullpen, just kind of mediocre in the middle of the league right now. But overall, yeah, for minus 125 right now, you can get that over on DraftKings. I think Philadelphia could be the play for both first 5 and full game. Maybe it's a spot in which we could go split a unit between the two, or even a double result, that type of a thing. But that's probably where our head is at as of right now. In terms of the total, I think that there's still offense on both sides here, so I'm going to lean towards the over, but I'm much more comfortable pulling the trigger, I believe, on Philadelphia than I am the total in this game, because usually we're taking the total thinking that the Yankees, like I've been saying, their offense is scoring and back, right? I want to see them do it against a lefty before we really have a parade over that. And then a player prop I would consider in this spot, if we toss it on over to the outlier screen, guys, if you want access to this tool, it's really simple. You use the link in the pinned comment, you get 7 days free. It's an absolute game changer. Even after those 7 days, it's $19.99 per month, and a super price manageable price point there, or bank manageable, whatever I'm trying to say. Go check out Outlier, link in the pinned comment. But I like Giancarlo Stanton here, under 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. You could see he just came back, obviously, so after a month off, has one, I believe it was a run, in game number 1 of this series, or 2, or game number 1, and then 0 yesterday. He's going up against a left-handed pitcher, in which his average drops down to 232. His WRC plus drops down below 90, and he has going to face probably 3 pitches today. The sinker, okay, he hits that well, but then the changeup, his WOBA drops drastically, and the slider, his WOBA drops as well. So I think that we have a decent spot here. Same thing when it comes to the heat map. You could see that Sanchez likes to throw this down, the changeup, to these right-handed batters, and look at this. He really does not hit that all that well down. And same thing with the slider. He throws it down and into righties. Stanton seems to be good when it's outside and down. So could be a good spot for Stanton, under 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. I'm kind of basing this on the fact that he's just coming back and that type of thing as well. If this was 1.5, I probably wouldn't consider it. So it shows you that there's kind of a thin margin there. It's not a play that I'm in love with, but definitely something I'm considering. And speaking of player props, I think now's a good time to tell you about Sleeper, guys. If you're not on Sleeper yet, you need to go and check it out. It's an amazing player prop app. You combine the research that you can do within Outlier and then go head over to Sleeper. It's an absolute game changer. You're going to see your bankroll go like that. Right now, you can get Sleeper. You get your first deposit 100% matched, and you get this Zach Gallen free square. And it's Wednesday. They drop a bunch of discounts on Wednesdays as well. And they have more plays and more selections out there than any other app. And they have alternate lines, which is really cool. But I do think my favorite thing about Sleeper, other than all the promos I do, the free squares and the deposit match, obviously, my favorite thing is the unique payout multiplier. Each and every play that you throw into your slip has its own multiplier, so they don't just follow the fixed payout structure like a lot of other apps out there. I think it's really, really cool. It mirrors sportsbooks a little bit more, which is obviously really cool. So go ahead and check it out. Link in the pinned comment, guys. Sign up for Sleeper. You get all of those benefits. And again, like, I trust this app. It's my favorite player prop app out there. Go check it out, guys. Link in the pinned comment. Let's go ahead and jump back into the rest of these games. Mets taking on the Twins. Close one yesterday, but yes, the Mets do pull it out. They win, was it 2-0, right? Those 2 runs came middle of the game as well, so that was like a 0-0 game for quite some time. But nonetheless, today could be a different story here as we have Pablo Lopez on the mound going up against Luis Severino. I do think Lopez, I'm like a Pablo Lopez truther, right? I like him. A lot of people have kind of fallen off, but he's been very good in his last few starts. He has 1 throwaway start, and it was against Houston. 4 of his last 5 starts, he's had 2 or less earned runs, which I think that's obviously a good thing to note due to the fact that this is a good offense of the Mets. They scored 15 runs in game number 1 of this series, right? Then they bounce back to reality, scored 2 runs yesterday. Maybe they have some like negative progression or regression coming here because, Pablo Lopez is going to throw a ton of fastballs. The Mets are a decent hitting team against every pitch but the slider, but he throws a slider 25% of the time. So if he can get his slider working, he may have a little bit of an advantage here. And the Twins offense is there as well. Obviously, yesterday is going to kind of tank their last 30-day numbers, but prior to that, they were looking pretty damn good, top 5 in almost every category. So I think that this could be a Twins spot today. The one thing I'll say, and I always tell you guys, when I feel this or I'm leaning this type of way, there's definitely an argument to be made that Severino could have a good game, as well as the Mets offense continues to, play well. That could be an outlier game yesterday, but Severino had some damn good numbers against the current guys in this Twins roster. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm all over the Twins, you know what I mean? But I do think for the odds, you're getting -105 on either side right now. I like Pablo Lopez's chance. So I'm going to lean in that direction, but again, there's a path to be made for the Mets here. In terms of the total, it's sitting at 8.5. I kind of sort of want to take a peek at the under here, but with these 2 offenses, it can be a little scary, you know what I mean? So I think I'd probably stay away from the total, but if anything, I would look at the under just because, I'm kind of putting the fate in both the pitchers' hands. Like, you've heard me say good things about Pablo Lopez, and then my way of saying the Mets could win this one too is that Severino has some damn good numbers and a decent sample size against a lot of the guys on this team. So even that, it's like, I think Severino could have a decent game as well. So I'll lean under, but I'm much more likely taking a peek at the Twins today. And then a player prop that I like is going to be Brandon Nimmo here, under 1.5 bases. This was literally -145 about 2 seconds ago. I refresh, -154. So maybe that prices it out at that point. But you could see he's hit the under here in 10 straight games. He's hit it, and what would this be? I think this is 14 straight games as well. And on the season, he's hit the under in 67 or 60% of games. At home, 66% of games. At home against a righty, 68% of games. Going up against a righty today, like we talked about Pablo Lopez, his batting average drops. So does his batting average with balls in play. His ISO numbers and his extra base hit percentages as well. The one concern is that his WOBA goes up against Pablo Lopez's, most frequent pitch, but it drops drastically against the slider, and then the third pitch, it goes up. So if that slider is on today, again, we kind of mentioned that with the Twins pick, I also do like this play as well. Brandon Nimmo under 1.5 bases here today. All right, next up, we got the White Sox taking on Kansas City. Drew Thorpe listed to start for the White Sox here, going up against Brady Singer of Kansas City. Singer has been very, very bad on the road. 1.53 whip on the season on the road, a FIP of 5.34, an average against of nearly 300. His K rate drops to 20, and he's walking nearly 10% batter. So obviously there's a little knock on Kansas City, but at the same time, I don't think that we can sit here and honestly say that this White Sox offense is worthy of any sort of consideration. So I think we lean towards Kansas City in some sort of money line parlay or something like that. I'd love to be able to sit here and be like, hey, there might be some value for, +170 on the White Sox today. There just isn't. I don't see it. So I'll lean Kansas City. In terms of a total here in this spot, I'll also take a peek at the over, but probably Kansas City's team total over because, again, I don't necessarily... Actually, we could consider the full game over as well because, Brady Singer could stink on the road, but what I was going to say is I don't want to rely on the White Sox to kind of do their part. So probably taking a peek at Kansas City's team total over. Right now, in terms of odds that you can get for that one, you're looking at over 4.5 for -140 on FanDuel. So a little pricey to score 5 runs, but I don't mind the spot. Their offense against righties the last 30 days have been pretty good. They're getting a lot of guys on base, so that shouldn't change against Drew Thorpe today. All right, Milwaukee taking on Atlanta. This should be a good one just due to the pitching that is on the mound. We have Peralta pitching for Milwaukee going up against Chris Sale here. Yesterday, Atlanta wins this one 5-1 on the back of Elder there. Overall, right now, I do think for Chris Sale, you're getting really good odds. Minus, let's see, we just had it up, -120 for Atlanta for Chris Sale here. Now, they do have a good bullpen as well, so that's also definitely something worth noting. Milwaukee's bullpen is very good as well, so I don't want to just totally take this in the direction of, Atlanta has the better bullpen, but neither bullpen's all that taxed or anything like that. So 2 good bullpens, 2 good pitchers on the mound. That's obviously why we're seeing the total way down there at 7. I think I'd rather the Nerfy than anything in this spot, so that's probably going to be my consideration. Maybe first 5 under, if we can get a nice price at that. Right now, you can get under 4.5 for -155 on MGM. A little pricey, but still something I'd consider before playing the full game under. Even though I know I mentioned that they have a good bullpen, but 7 just seems really, really low. Even a 4-3 game, you're looking at a spot in which it's a push. You know what I mean? So you'd need like a 3-2 or a 4-2, that type of a thing. Yesterday did cash it 5-1, but Milwaukee's bats didn't show up. But like I said, I think that I'd lean Atlanta. First 5 under and the Nerfy in this spot as well, just because I think you're getting a really good price for Chris Sale. Like, I don't think you're always going to get Chris Sale at a number like that. In fact, the last time he pitched was against the Mets, and we took it. That loss. But then prior to that, you're looking at, -200 numbers for him. So 2 times in a row now, you're getting Chris Sale at a good price. I don't think that they lose both of those games, which they did lose that one against the Mets. So give me Atlanta here, backing Chris Sale, as well as the first 5 under and the Nerfy. All right, next game, St. Louis taking on Texas. We were right about this game in game 1 and dead wrong in game number 2. But again, we were wrong about a lot yesterday. But today we have Michael McGreevy on the mound for St. Louis, going up against Andrew Heaney. I think last night I saw Sonny Gray listed to start, and I was like, okay, here's something interesting, and it doesn't look like he's starting. But Michael McGreevy is going to make his, I believe it's his MLB debut. 24-year-old just got called up yesterday. So I don't know if I'm looking to take, a St. Louis team that is slightly favored in this spot with a new pitcher on the mound, but at the same time, like, I don't want to sit here and brag about Andrew Heaney, you know what I mean? He's been kind of rocky as well, so I think this is a spot in which I'd consider Texas, but I don't know if I actually get to the window with it. Right now, you can get them for -108 over on FanDuel, so it's pretty much a pick 'em, but overall, it's like Texas isn't playing the best of baseball, right? Like, even the game that we were right about, they won the first 5 and then lost the full game, so it's like, they're not playing a great brand. No, I think they did win the full game, right? But nonetheless, like, it was a sweat for the first 5. So you're looking at a spot in which they just haven't been consistent. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games. St. Louis now has won 2 of their last 3. So there's paths to take if you want to go the offensive route to get to St. Louis. I'm just not backing, a first-time pitcher. I know a lot of people say that has an edge for, the pitcher and all that. I don't believe in that in the slightest. I think the moment can be too big for a pitcher. I don't care if, the batters haven't seen him before. It's like all it takes is a kid to get in his head coming up from AAA for a split second, and that game's over. So I don't buy the idea of a first-time debut starter has an edge over the batters one bit. So I'd lean Texas, but I don't think I get there as a final play. In terms of a total here, I don't mind the idea of taking the over because what if, McGreevy gets hit up and then I don't really like Heaney, so I don't mind the over. But again, like you have an inconsistent offense on one side, so a little bit concerning there to say the least. This probably isn't a game in which we take any final plays out of, honestly. All right, Arizona taking on Washington. I really wish we were getting a better price at this because I think I like Zach Gallen's chances for a good start here. He has good numbers against the guys on this team. Now, it's a small sample size, but 143 average against, an expected batting average against 199, expected slugging 347, and an expected WOBA of 266. And this obviously is a good Arizona offense as of right now. What they score yesterday? Oh, yeah, it was a football score, 17-0. Prior to that, they've gone 9-5, 9-4, 8, .64 runs scored. So this offense is just firing on all cylinders. Now they have their ace on the mound, going up against a lefty, Mackenzie Gore, who isn't all that great. He's actually been okay on the road this season, but again, you're talking about an Arizona offense that is crushing, right? So to me, I wish we can get to Arizona somehow. Maybe it is a play to kind of go with the first 5 run line. Right now, you can get a decent price for that, but I almost want to just consider their team total over. So first 5 run line, we could start with that one. That's going to be -120 over on DK. That's not all that bad, but their first 5 innings, team total is 2.5 for plus money on DraftKings, so that's also a consideration. And then their team total overall right now you can get for 4.5 for -110. So all worth considering. I just don't know if have they used all their gas? You know what I mean? Like, are they going to go from 17 runs scored yesterday to 0 today? Like, that definitely happens in the big somehow, but that's the way I'd play it. I'd trust the hot offense, and obviously I do think that they have a pitching advantage. Even though Gallen has been, kind of shaky, I still think he's a much better pitcher than Mackenzie Gore. And Mackenzie Gore's a lefty. Arizona loves to hit the lefties. All right, Boston taking on Seattle. We have Brian Bayo on the mound for Boston, going up against, I believe it was, George Kirby for Seattle here. Bayo has struggled, but this is still a very good Red Sox offense. Even yesterday they lose, but 6 runs scored, and they can kind of score at any time. You know what I mean? Like, they scored in the 3rd inning, then it was like, okay, well, they look good. They were up, 3-1? And then all of a sudden Seattle has this 4, 5, 6 inning stretch of scoring a bunch of runs, and then even still the Red Sox kind of showed some life. So I'm looking at an over here, but maybe a Red Sox team total over instead of the full game, because Seattle's offense isn't great. We've said that. Now, they are on a streak. They played against Chicago and now the Red Sox, and they've scored 10, 6, 6, 7, and 10 runs. That is not the Seattle that we know of, just a week ago or so, right? Like, prior to that, they went 1, 1, 1, 6, okay, 2. So, like, this is maybe they're in the middle of a little spurt here of scoring a bunch of runs, but I expect them to come back down to form a little bit here. You're going to get a ton of sinkers and sliders out of Bayo. Seattle in the last 30 days here, dead last in hitting the sinker, dead last in hitting the slider. So I like the Red Sox for plus money. I like the idea of the Red Sox team total over, not necessarily the full game, because I actually don't necessarily think that the Mariners score a boatload of runs today. Maybe if they're in the middle of their momentum stretch, then you can make that argument, but I'm kind of sensing a potential for some aggression here, especially because even though Bayo's kind of struggled at times, definitely struggled at home, this is a pitch mix in which Seattle doesn't fare all that well against. And then from a player prop perspective, again, like, I'm maybe trusting Bayo a little bit too much, but I like his over 15.5 outs for plus 110. If this was not plus money, which it's only plus money on FanDuel and DraftKings, elsewhere it's -115, you could see in -102. So I'd only really like this for plus money, but plus 110, definitely something that I'm liking. And I like his over 15.5 outs because I think that, one, like, look at his last few games against Seattle. He's gone over once and then just to 15 outs each time. But like I said, the pitch mix is really what I'm focusing on here. On Outlier, you can go in and say, okay, here's the sinker. A lot of these guys, their WOBA gets a little bit better, but the slider is what I'm really, really focusing on here in terms of K rate as well as the WOBA. Like, these are guys that do not hit it all that well. And obviously, we don't have too much of a sample size here, so it's not like they've seen him all over the place. So for plus money, I think it's worth maybe a half unit or something like that. And the great thing about Outlier is I can literally do this. Click BetMGM. I can pull it up on my phone if I want to do a QR code, or I can continue in browser, and it's going to open up the play right here, and it's going to throw it into your bet slip. You don't even have to go digging for it. So if I was logged in, like, with one tap, I could probably play something. So pretty damn cool. Another reason to go ahead and check out Outlier. Link in the pinned comment. Again, 7 days free. But Brian Bayo, over 15.5 outs as a consideration, but if you can't get it for plus money, I wouldn't play it, because again, it is kind of a risky play. All right, Cincinnati taking on Chicago, the Cubs. I thought that Justin Steele was going to have a good game yesterday, and he didn't. He had 5 earned runs through 5 innings, I believe just 1 home run. Still 7 strikeouts, but he allowed so many base runners. It was like, I want to say it was like 9 or 10 base runners in 5 innings, so not all that great, obviously, there. To me, this is probably still a spot in which you could consider the Cubs, but the pitching isn't something that I'm, obsessed with here. Kyle Hendricks on the mound. He's been bad this season, bad on the road, really bad against lefties, which you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 4 or 5 lefties in this lineup. Ellie De La Cruz, Fraley, and I want to say Candelario are 3 of them. You can go either way with this type of a play. I would say the Cubs just because of the money, though. Like, I don't think Cincinnati is worth by any means the price that you're taking a peek at there at minus 150-ish. So I'd go Cubs, but I don't necessarily love the idea of the pitcher. And if I did Cubs, it'd be first 5 again, because this is a better Cincinnati bullpen than this Cubs team. But like I already kind of have clearly been talking in a not the most confident way, I don't think that this one becomes a final play. I just really can't rationalize a minus 148 play for Cincinnati. That's why I would consider the Cubbies. In terms of the total, I'll lean towards the over. It's in Great American Ballpark, obviously a run-scoring park, and you have 2 pitchers on the mound, Nick Lodolo on the side of the Reds, that could, have like one blow-up inning and kind of turn the whole thing towards an over. So I'll lean towards the over. All right, Houston taking on Pittsburgh. Framber Valdez listed as a starter here for Houston. I've actually seen Martin Perez on the mound for Pittsburgh, but I've seen Jake Woodford more so on more sites, so I'm assuming he's going to be the starter. It's just not confirmed, but I'm gonna say Jake Woodford's the starter. This is a spot in which it's probably Houston on the money line. Maybe we could look at like Baltimore and Houston in a money line parlay. Houston right? They've lost 3 straight games, 2 of these games, so it's like, to me, I don't think that they lose this one. Like yesterday, I'm surprised that they end up losing that one. But Pittsburgh's offense, I guess you could say, is kind of on a roll right now. And Houston, they've been kind of cold. Like they had the beginning of that Dodgers series, they looked good, and then it's like, yeah, they've kind of cooled off a little bit. 2, 3, and 2 runs in the last 3 games. So I just think that, they bounce back. I can't envision a sweep here. So I'll take Houston on the money line here. And like I said, probably a potential for a parlay there with Baltimore. So that's how I'd play it. I don't know if that makes its way into being a final play. And again, not to get on the same little rant here, but just because I'm not confident in it doesn't mean that it's something not worth talking about or anything like that. Like, still worth talking about games because we talk about every game. And who knows, maybe I'm dumb enough that as I talk about a game, I'll stumble on a pick. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, the total sitting at 8. I think Houston's offense has a little bit more in the tank right now. So I'm going to lean towards the over and maybe even an Astros team total over if we can get plus money for 4.5. All right, next up, we got San Diego taking on the Dodgers. This is probably the game of the night. We have Dylan Cease on the mound going up against Clayton Kershaw. Very obviously excited for this one. You have 2 rivals, and now you have 2 stud pitchers on the mound. Kershaw, in his first appearance of the season, 4 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 6 Ks, 2 walks, 18 pitches per inning against San Francisco. And Dylan Cease, coming off of, I would say, a pretty good little stretch here. If you recall, he had what was that? Oh yeah, right, a no-hitter that he threw recently here against Washington. So I would say that the guy's pitching pretty well right now. Now, does he end up, being able to go from a no-hitter to bouncing back and pitching well against a way better offense? Still not sure there, but I think that this is a spot in which we can look at the first 5 under. Yes, you have 2 good pitchers on the mound, and yes, that totals down at 7.5, and yes, you have 2 good offenses, but I'm telling you, I think this is a pitcher's duel today. I've been wrong before, just look at my recap from last night, but to me, for 4.5 right now, you're getting really good value at minus 140 over on DraftKings. I think this could easily be a minus 160 play for under 4.5 in the first 5 there. I also don't mind a peek at the Nerfy. Again, 2 good offenses, I understand that, but I'm really, really banking on this being somewhat of a pitcher's duel. So I'll lean towards the Nerfy in this spot as well. In terms of a money line, I kind of want to back the Padres in this spot. You have more sample size of Dylan Cease. Clayton Kershaw's coming off of 1 start and arguably a better offense right now. The Padres have been crushing lefties, so I'll lean towards them just because, they're at home and Cease is on the mound. But if you're sitting there being like, and like I tell you guys actually plenty, is like take a really good team at plus money, it could be worth it. If you're sitting there saying plus 115 for the Dodgers, I don't know if I could pass that one up. I hear you, and I understand it, so I wouldn't be, against that either. I'm on the Padres today. Probably a first 5 play because I'd like to target, really focusing on Cease here. The bullpen situation for the Padres, take it or leave it in a sense. So, yeah, I'd lean towards first 5 Padres. All right, Angels taking on the Rockies here in this spot on the mound. For the Angels, going to be Davis Daniel going up against Kyle Freeland. I guess you have some decent value here for the Angels at minus 140. With Freeland, you pretty much call him free run because he gives everyone all the runs out there. I'd lean towards the Angels, but it's not a game in which I'm super obsessed with. The total sitting at 8.5. I could also see an over here because I don't think either one of these pitchers is all that tremendous. All right, in our last game on the board, we have Logan Webb and the Giants taking on Ross Stripling and the A's. To me, this is another spot in which I keep saying it's like I do think that this A's offense is good. They won, what, 5-3 yesterday, 5-2, something like that. And to me, it's like, why not run it back? Like, I don't think that they're gonna, crush this San Francisco team, but for plus 190 odds, it's like I don't see a problem with that. Now, Logan Webb's obviously the better pitcher out of the two of them, but again, like that offense is decent, the A's offense. So give me the A's here. It's going to be a lean. I don't know if I have the cojones to pull trigger on that, like I always tell you guys, but for plus 190 odds, I don't think that you're missing. That could be worth a sprinkle. Maybe even consider the A's team total over, because I think you're going to get a decent line and decent odds because Logan Webb is on the mound. In terms of the total, I guess just that I would lean towards the A's team total over, just if you can get good money on it and a good line, because I think Logan Webb's a really good pitcher. I do. I just think that this A's offense is actually kind of in a groove right now, so maybe they keep that up. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button. Absolutely crush that like button and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all of the support, even when we have bad nights like last night, but we're still been crushing July. And yeah, we'll do a recap tomorrow morning of July and our season to date numbers. Looking pretty damn well. So yeah, catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.